Off. How about now? You got a voice now? We got a green light.
We do have a green light on yours.
Yep. This one on?
I check right there. You are.
How about it, Joe? We got this one?
But they're totally
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Testing. Okay.
I'm trying to thought.
Testing.
I like to say
We kicked him out of the fifth wheel that he was in at grandma's yard across the street from
think we're
Sandy's.
live.
And now he's got a outfitter's tent set up in front of the fifth wheel.
It's obsolete.
In grandma's yard.
Ready?
This is N Street. I don't want to N Street.
He's the
Correct,
most
Stephen?
enabled criminal on the planet.
Stephen.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just listening to the YouTube
Peter?
stream. It seems like it's working.
What time's it supposed to start?
When we're ready.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City Council meeting, August 10th. We're starting a couple minutes late here due to technical issues. It's 7:07 p.m. So the first thing I'd like to do is have roll call. Council Position 1, Joe Armand.
Here.
Council Position 2, David Budrias.
Present.
Council Position 3, Stephen Hardy.
Here,
Council Position 4, Peter Davenport.
Present.
And Council Position 5, Levi Shank.
Here.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next thing we'd like to do is recognize the people in the audience. Please speak loud enough so that the clerk can record your names. Why don't we start with you, Chris?
Chris Moritz,
Marge Womack.
Stan and Louise Roth.
Brian Telford.
Andy Mankey.
Rusty Warwick.
Pastor Kate Clark.
Thank you. We'll have public comments at the start of the meeting on the agenda only. Does anybody have any of those? Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you
On
said-
the agenda only?
No, not, sorry.
Okay. So the next thing on our docket tonight is to approve the payroll for July 31st.
Motion to approve the payroll.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the payroll. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Peter.
The payment of the librarian,
Yes.
is that 3 months?
No, that is a back payment per state regulations to bring the librarian up to the rate that is required by the state.
Thank you.
So that was a back payment for the year 2021.
Is that for 1 month or how many?
No, that's for the whole year, hours, an extra amount.
I see.
Actually, I think it was a year and a half. 2021 and 2022.
2022 was already done in a different check.
Oh, correct.
This is the previous year.
Got it.
Yeah.
I have a question regarding, why are we seeing both Michael Cronrath and Sage Wilson on there for the same amount?
Because they're both working.
Okay, so with Michael no longer the elected treasurer, is he an official employee of the city then? Sorry.
This covers the time period he was training Sage.
Well, but one of them wasn't the elected official at that point in time, and so I'm curious what were they? Under what auspice are we paying them when one of them wasn't the treasurer?
I don't have an answer for you, Stephen. All I know is he worked And he
What do you
deserved to
think
get
happened?
paid his 10 hours.
Oh, I'm not debating that he deserves to get paid. I'm wanting to make sure that if he's getting paid and he's not the elected official, that he's an official city employee.
And that we're paying two positions theoretically. Correct, Stephen? You getting that?
That's what it appears, yeah. And I get it, if he's working to cross-train her, I'm not saying he should do that for free. It's just he needs to be an official city employee in order to
Oh, I
grab
can't
a
either.
paycheck
So
in that
we don't know what's going
capacity.
Had the city council notified me of that prior, I could have taken care of that.
on. Kind of fun, huh?
What was the official date of resignation of Mike Cronrath?
June
31st.
June 21st or 2nd, I believe.
Pull up our past minutes to prove, get that for you,
I
Peter.
can't hear you.
Have to pull up the last minutes to get that, I don't have that in front of me.
It was either June 21st or 22nd.
But he nevertheless had gainful employment with the city? After that date, Your Honor?
I can't answer that for you at this moment. I think this is something that we need to table this part and go through these again. Get some more information. That's something I think we definitely need to look into there, find out what Mike thinks about that too. I haven't talked to him in the past couple of weeks.
Well, from the understanding I had is that I never, when he resigned, I never heard anybody mention that we would hire him to train. He offered.
So
to train.
excuse me, what happened?
Just
You
a
had
minute,
somebody
please.
on the thing,
Just
and
a
then
minute,
nobody
just a
out
minute,
here
please.
knows what's going on.
You'll have to get recognized by the chair.
Say again?
You're not recognized by the chair. This
What'd
is
he say?
the council meeting right now. The council's having discussion, and the chair has not recognized you to speak at the moment.
That's what I like about you.
Do we know why Mike's name appears on the payroll this month?
I can't tell you. I saw that when I was looking through these checks.
You guys know what's going on? You do? Thank you. Stay by the door.
So just to clarify, June
Sorry, Levi.
22nd was
Can't help
the
it.
day,
June 22nd.
was the day he resigned.
I don't think Mike was expecting a check. I think this is probably something we need to.
Stephen, is there a process to table this discussion, or can we just table it?
Technically, I think it needs a motion to table.
Can I withdraw my motion and just have it go move?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if there's a problem with not addressing an agenda item if we don't have a vote on it, but if there's not, I think that's fine. I don't know if the state has any type of a cow if we don't address it. Well, I guess we would just consider the agenda item stricken, so yeah, I guess that's fine.
Okay, I withdraw my motion on this item so we can discuss it later.
Okay, so Joe withdrew his motion to approve the payroll for July, and we'll
Does it
table it to our
Require a
next meeting.
second?
I'm sure it will, yes. And when you withdrew your motion, I think we would probably entertain a motion to table this event until the next city council meeting, which would be, probably the 24th of this month.
Yes.
So the 24th, to table it until Wednesday the 24th?
So moved.
Will this delay the payment of the other bills though?
No. That's
The
a
others.
that's a separate page.
I mean, of the salaries.
The checks are already out, Peter.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay. tabled. I will second Levi's motion to table.
Okay, it's
Till
been
the
moved and,
24th.
it's been moved and second that we table the
Payroll.
payroll portion of the check register until the 24th of August. Any further discussion?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Stephen?
Nope, I'm good.
All opposed? State aye. That we table this until the 24th?
I'm voting yay. Yay, yes.
Yes.
You asked if all
I didn't hear
the.
you
If
call
there's
the vote.
anybody opposed.
Yes, is anybody opposed?
Nobody's
Same name?
opposed.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
I should say, yes. For the record.
That's okay. So the next item on the agenda is approve the claims for the month.
Is there one page this meeting, or I only see one page in the packet unless there was a second one sent earlier. Just want to make sure I'm complete here.
2nd of August.
Yeah, 2nd of August, the only one I have is the transaction 638 to 647.
Yeah.
Okay,
Same
that's
here.
what I'm looking at.
Has there been a motion yet?
No.
Move to accept as presented.
Okay. So Peter made a motion to accept the bills as written, and it's been seconded by Levi. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say the same.
Aye.
Was that,
David says aye.
was that a for or against aye, Stephen?
4.
For,
Sorry,
thank you.
I was on
Carries
the way.
5-0. Thank you. We got a little delay on the phone call here. Next issue is to approve the minutes for July 27th. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Second, it's been moved and seconded
Levi
to
beat me.
approve the minutes. Any further discussion?
I'm good.
Call the question.
So it's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes as written. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Is that a 5-0, Stephen?
Yeah, I heard
Okay, sorry. Next thing on the agenda here is Brian Telford. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, Brian Telford. I'm a candidate for Lincoln County Sheriff. I'm just here to introduce myself today. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time, but I will stay afterwards and can answer any questions that you have. But today's just basically an introduction, and I'd like to talk to you afterwards if you have any questions, issues, and or concerns. Thank you.
Thanks for being brief.
Nicely done.
And thanks to the two candidates who ran in the primary for being there, for making yourself available to the voters. We had 5 extremely strong candidates, in my opinion.
I personally don't have any questions at the moment, but I know I will, and I have your phone number.
Perfect.
So, hopefully yours can ring as many hours of the day as mine does.
Doesn't it?
Any further questions? thanks much for coming.
I appreciate it.
Next issue is the mayor's comments. It's gonna be rather brief, but I wanted to take a couple minutes here before we got into the meat and potatoes of this to kind of give you a breakdown to anybody who might not be knowing that on probably the third week in June, one of our local residents said, "You need to come and look behind my garage. I've got about 3 inches of water standing on the ground." And that was Jim Sackett. So we went and looked, and sure enough, he did. And the whole hillside along the railroad tracks was wet where you would sink up to your ankles. So on June 30th, we went there for what we call our first dig right now, and jokingly named this as the Three Lakes construction sites, because we had our backhoe stuck 3 times, the ground was so soft. That was on June 30th. July 20th, there was water bubbling up out of the railroad tracks. That was after we had several holes dug. We knew there was a water line there. We had dug up the water line to the best of our ability. On June 25th, we already had that line cut off and replaced with an above-ground line, which broke at one of the joints about 12 hours later at 4 o'clock in the morning. So myself and most of the council and many other people in town responded along with the contractor, and in about 24 hours the line was repaired, and it is now holding and has been since 7/25. So yes, thank you. Our Band-Aid repair is fixed, and the pipe that it was under the railroad tracks ceased to leak water under the railroad tracks, which is a major event on 7/23. Last Friday, I got a phone call in the morning when I was mowing the lawn at 9:08 a.m. by a person, when I shut the lawnmower off, who said, "You may not be able to see it right now, but I'm jumping up and down. We got our grant." So with several days of work by Janice Meets, our local director of EDC, and several council people, a lot of work with Jerry, the information was gotten. We declared a state of emergency. Janice prepared several days worth of paperwork, turned it over to the Public Works, who had meetings, and on Friday, like I say, on August 5th, they granted us a full grant for $750,700 for the repair and replacement of our water line underneath the railroad tracks. So much thanks to all those people. Janice, Jerry helped out here for a full day and a half getting Janice all that information. Our county council members, or commissioners, Mark Stedman, Scott Hutzel, Rob Kaufman, Steve Marsh from TD&H, and probably a plethora of other people who I'm forgetting. So anybody who I haven't thanked, thanks so much. Now we're marching forward with the second part of that process, and that is to make a permanent fix and to bore a hole under the railroad tracks to get a new line put in and get rid of the above ground line that we replaced. And before the snow blows, before it gets cold, the line that we replaced is a temporary fix only. So, at any rate, that's what's going on. There's, most of the water leaks in town have been repaired, and we're moving forward with all that. We still have many challenges or opportunities ahead of us here for success, but that's what I had on my report for the day. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the USDA agreement and the professional service agreement that we're gonna try to get to. So I'm gonna turn the floor over to Stephen Marsh from TD&H right now.
Thank you. It was, as I was typing up the agreement, I had to go backwards to figure out where we started, and how we ended up where we are today. So I realized that I think the only person that is on council that actually was involved with this at the start in 2008 was Peter. I think he was the only one.
Your memory is better than mine.
So I realized I probably ought to show you guys what a water system plan looks like. That's what they look like to get them approved through the Department of Health. That's a lot of paper, of which only certain pieces in there will actually be useful to you guys. However, the Department of Health requires it. So going backwards to 2018, we received a call, or the town received a call, that the golf course was interested in possibly coming to an agreement to maybe consolidate their irrigation system with the town's water system. Essentially, the city would expand their service area. That requires what's called a water system plan. So we went into the Department of Health to discuss it. We had a pre-planned meeting, and I think the date on it is 2009, early 2019, mid 2019. And we started looking for funding, because these things aren't cheap, as you can tell by the voluminous paper involved. So we started looking for funding, and just recently, within the last 30 days, we had our final piece of funding. It's a $30,000 grant from USDA Rural Development. So we have full funding for the project. The price tag on that in 2018 was $88,000. The price tag today on that is $88,000. I didn't increase it for inflation whatsoever. Fast forward to today. The reason it was $88,000 in 2018 is because we would have to take a look at two systems and analyze two systems. The golf course and the city of Harrington, and figure out how do you mend them. Well, since then we've had COVID. Sounds like the golf course received some money, so they are now more stable, let's say, than they were in 2019. And looking at it today, the only reason, being an advocate for the city, that the city should incorporate them is if they gave you or significantly reduced price on their water right. They have a lot of water. I am 99% certain they are no longer interested in that, and rightfully so. Water rights are going to be more valuable than gold in about 5 years. So, with that being said, you have the contract sitting in front of you is for $88,000. If we don't do the analysis on the golf course, it's going to be significantly cheaper than that. That's kind of how we got to where we were to where we are now. Does that make sense to everybody?
Sure.
I'm sorry, just a second.
Rusty.
Rusty, right now he's addressing the council.
I don't know what the hell the deal is. I don't do anything
I got
like
it
that.
right now.
I heard this guy talk. I'd
Yes.
like to rebut a little bit. I don't know how you wanna do it. Do I go around and be last, or you guys
No,
go
I'm-
first?
I'm trying to
I don't
explain
know.
that to you, sir.
Go for it.
Right now, he's addressing the council here, and you're a citizen listening into the city
I
council.
can't hear you. I'm sorry. I don't hear good.
I neither.
When he talks about the golf course, I used to be the president. All right? I know the golf course. I had my ass in the air picking up bricks out of the golf course on the first tee in 1962. I'd love to rebut.
So at any rate, Steve, I think the couple things I've got is it's 88.5 was the
88.5.
total of our money.
And that's all funded
Sorry.
through grants and public loans. That's
Right.
nothing necessarily coming out of the.
And if we decide that the golf course, and did you get the email I sent you tonight about the president
Yes.
of the golf course,
Yes.
the president club there?
Mm-hmm.
I was speaking to Rick Becker this afternoon. I believe that was this afternoon. The days all run together. And he wasn't sure what they would wanna do. He's still on the board.
Okay.
But I sent that to you and Cynthia both, so you could, you wanted to get a letter from him,
This is ridiculous.
finding out if they still had interest in, being part of that agreement or not.
Okay.
Yeah, but, and if we don't
Wow.
do that, did I understand you right, that we probably wouldn't be able to use the CDBG money?
Let me ask you something.
It is. I'm gonna say it's likely you still can, because that's what I've heard. But until we actually get it in writing from somebody, I'm uncertain.
Okay. So what you're asking tonight of the council, can you paraphrase that
Yes.
then?
Need your permission to sign that contract, and then we will amend it as more information comes forward. It's a time and materials contract, so it's not lump sum. I bill you time and materials. If we work less, we pay less.
To produce a water system plan,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
The purpose of, again, the purpose of the water system plan is to get that, then it opens up millions of dollars worth of water system improvement dollars from the state of Washington.
Once we have a plan in our hand.
Approved plan.
Okay.
And you were saying that the golf course with the water rights, they're not interested in that co-op now?
Until I get it in writing, I'm uncertain. I would be shocked if they were.
Well,
And if
no water rights, and you are correct. They're very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
What benefit would that be to the city
None.
to do this?
The only benefit to the city, in my opinion, again, I haven't done any numbers on it, was if they give you or sell you at an extremely discounted price their water rights to the city, that just increase your water asset portfolio incredibly. They have like 400 acre feet they can pull out a year.
Are
That's,
you talking about water or this agreement?
Well,
Both.
both actually.
Okay.
but I would be surprised if they were still interested in doing that.
But the one thing, without a water system plan, having that book opens up the ability for us to go to different government grants and other things and to get into that system and even get that money.
For infrastructure repair,
Right.
Specifically
Or to move
water.
forward to replace water systems.
tank, lines,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
anything. Without this, they don't wanna talk to you. This is the first thing you have to have before you can even go any further.
Does that change any, does that put any encumbrances on us as far as testing, log, record keeping?
No more
any-
than you already have.
Okay, so nothing changes in that aspect.
It essentially, to take Scott's memory and put it into a book
Okay.
that anybody can look at. And so when somebody asks you how deep's your well, you know where that is. Where is it located? And then we also take a look at your current water rates, compare that to your assets, figure out, are you charging too much, not enough, just right? So it's a full-blown analysis holistically of your water system. To give you an idea of what's possible with this is 2 years ago for the town of Oakdale, through health, we ended up getting them $2.6 million grant, not loan, grant, to do 13,000 feet of water main replacement.
And was it a matching grant or anything like that? It's just straight across?
I wish I knew how I did it so I could do it again.
So
Studying on that.
if we're talking just about Harrington, the city of Harrington, it'll be considerably less than 88,000.
I think so. I think that we have a few things in play here. One, if the golf course is not involved, I don't have to worry about that work. That probably drops it 15, 20,000 just right there. Then we may be able to tweak a few things in there to drop it even. But again, there is at least, let's see, $50,000 worth of grant money to write that in there
Okay.
from USDA and Community Development Block Grant. And we would burn that first before we get into the Public Works Board loan. And we may not even use it. Who knows?
And this is fully funded already.
Yes.
Couple of comments on this proposed contract. I noticed it is dated 1900 something. there are a few errors in this.
That is USDA's, that's not my contract, that is what USDA Rural Development requires us to use for professional service agreement, so we're just gonna have to strike that. I don't have the ability to, with federal money, you have to play by their rules. That's their form. We can strike it and actually make it 2,000 something or other.
Also, this same contract has Timothy Tompkins on the city council. He's no longer a council member.
He was at the meeting in 2019 with Department of Health.
Right.
Talk about Tim Tipton.
Yes.
Tim Tipton, yeah.
Yeah, he was actually at the meeting with me with Department of Health. So that's the reason why his name's on there, back in 2018. Yes, and he's not on council.
Maybe it's, yeah, it could be that, yeah.
So going forward, what do you,
And that's where you get this.
so I can wrap my head around this and everybody else, what's our exposure to the citizens of the city as far as debt? Anything on this?
Great question. Pretend for a moment that we have to use, so we have $50,000 worth of grant money in there, which no encumbrance to anybody. Pretend that we have to use the $34,500 Public Works Board loan. Amortizing that out and dividing it over, it makes a difference of $3 a month per bill sent out.
Well, I know now there's a lot of, I don't know about anybody else's there, but we do have some citizens that are concerned with the rates they're paying now. So, anymore, I mean, it's, but there's no way you could,
Not until I get into it.
would this 88,000 be available if the golf course is just pushed aside? It doesn't, is out of the equation completely?
Here's our first 2 steps. Maybe this will help.
Yeah.
So, the first step is to write to the golf course. I'll write the letter, and I can even put it, give it to Jerry, and he can send it off there. In 2018, you guys were interested in doing this. Are you still interested? Please please write back and let us know. I'm guessing that letter comes back no. Then the next step is we go back to the Department of Health, have another pre-plan meeting, is what they're called. Without the golf course involved, there's not as many steps in that as it was in 2018. Once I know those steps, I can come back and amend your contract.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Totally, thank you.
I'm not here to take advantage of you, trust me.
No, I was just trying to get the steps. You did
Yeah.
perfect explaining it there.
Do we have a copy of the proposed contract?
It's on your computer too, isn't it? The same one?
Yes. Yeah. Did Peter get a copy of this?
Hard
Is it
copy.
Agreement for professional services?
Yeah, that's,
Yes,
that is the only contract, correct? That we're
Yes,
putting
that is
in?
correct.
yes. And this is just to produce a water system plan.
Over what time period?
It'll take a year.
Yeah, I think it's sitting in here, 365 days. Right here, section A.
All drinking water.
Yeah. And is the funding in place yet? Or
Yes, fully funded.
This is a totally funded contract.
I would move that the mayor be authorized to sign the proposed contract entitled Agreement for Professional Services.
It's Steven's still with us.
Is that a motion?
It's a motion.
That's a motion, okay? Stephen, have we still got you?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor that we proceed with this contract. Is there a second?
You'll proceed with it, you looking into the two steps. Right. If it doesn't work out, we can go to plan B, right?
Yeah, I'll just update you on whatever we find out.
The whole benefit of this is to get grants, funding for infrastructure, for
Water. As you guys well know, your water system's well out of date.
Oh, yeah, I'll second the motion.
So it's been moved and seconded. The floor is still open for discussion.
Question. What provision is there if we go over budget?
You won't. I guarantee you. I'll eat it.
Is someone else speaking?
Yeah, Peter was asking if there was a provision to go over budget, and Steve responded with, it will not go over budget.
So two questions that I have then. I caught most of what Steve said, but just distance from the microphone and stuff, I want to make sure I'm clear. Did I hear that 50 of the 88,000 is already provided by some type of CDBG funding?
It's a combination of two grants. There's a actually it's $54,000. $24,000 is through a community development block grant that the town does not have to repay. And then $30,000 grant through the USDA search grant. So it's actually $54,000 that is grant. We will use that money first, and then if we get in be above 54,000, we will start using the loan as much as we need to.
Steve, we have a public works assistant loan, account loan for 34.5. A portion of that will be forgiven. It's like 20% of what, so if we dip into it, we're responsible for 80% of what gets used.
Right, okay. And then my other question is, if, from what I see in looking at the contract with Centab, that ultimately this is just time and materials, right? So I heard your response to Peter regarding this will not go over budget, but I guess in regards to some lingering concerns I had about the way the Adams Street project came about and that overage there, what I'm trying to make sure is ultimately this is time and materials. There is really no hard guarantee of services per amount, right?
Okay, you said two things in there that I'm going to address. With Adams Street, when we initially came in for that over budget, we have since heard TIB is going to pay for all the overages, so no one pays anything. Ultimately, the bottom line came in, and we were able to shave a few things off, so nobody owes anybody. Everything's covered. So there shouldn't be anything out of city's pocket for that, nor ours.
Okay, but on this one?
On this one, I think I've told you guys before, when we write grants or loans, I always like to ask for more money than I think we're going to need, because it's much easier to give it back than to ask for more. I do the same thing with these agreements. I tend to ask for more than I think I'm going to need, because it's much easier to come in and say we're done and you guys still have $20,000 left, as opposed to coming back and saying, hey, I need another 15. If I'm to guess the way I think this is going to go, I think we'll probably be way under budget.
Okay, and I understand that portion of it, but just at the end of the day, it's still time and materials.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I'm good.
If there's no further discussion, I think it's time we take a vote. All in favor of accepting this agreement and signing off as per Steve, as discussed here, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Alright.
Aye.
Opposed, say the same. Motion carries 5-0. We'll take care of that tonight, Steve.
Awesome. Do you guys wanna talk about the emergency repair up here? Oh, you have it, good. I didn't see it on
So
the
you're not
agenda.
done yet.
No, I didn't see it on the agenda, is the
You
only
are
reason.
50% done.
Yes,
You are now up for the.
this is the
for
easy one.
agreement, the engineering agreement for the repair. I believe the Band-Aid, as I refer to it, our repair to get it up and running, is part of the grant money also. So.
It's
this
all
is-
grant.
This is a repair and proceed with the ongoing situation.
Yes.
Okay,
So that contract there is for us. What we know as of today is we need to prepare a set of construction documents, which includes plans, specifications, and an engineering estimate to go out to public bid
right.
to bore underneath the railroad tracks and with a 24-inch casing, steel casing, and then we'll sleeve an 8-inch pipe through it. That dollar figure, then 90,000?
Engineering.
Yeah,
Fee
yeah.
of 90,500.
Is, I would be surprised if we used half of that.
Okay.
Again, same philosophy as the other. I'd much rather, that's what I had in the grant application. That's what, when I did the numbers and did all the cost estimating for the emergency grant, that's a number I had in the grant application, so I just copied it over. Again, time and materials, fully funded, all grant, nothing out of the, so if it comes in less, we just bill you less. You have more money for construction.
You need our approval and get the ball rolling.
Yes. And just so you guys know, I already have the survey team lined up to come out here Monday and Tuesday of next week to do the survey. I already have Geotech lined up for Wednesday to do test pits where we're planning on doing the boring.
Is the railroad cooperating? Is it,
We don't have to worry about the railroad yet because everything's being done outside of their right of way.
okay.
I need to start making phone calls for the railroad. That's going to be our critical path.
Okay.
That's going to take the longest period of time is to get their approval to go underneath.
Have you touched base with Katie Robles yet?
I have not
Okay.
yet. We actually
They're
we actually
well
used
aware.
we actually used Katie down here on Adams Street to get the permits through.
Okay. So I guess I wanna add one thing only, per emails here with Janice and other people. The information came back to me, I asked who was able to go out and get the bids, and it says unfortunately, the city cannot legally produce bid documents. That's where you come in, we have to have a
Correct.
Washington state licensed professional contract
Engineer.
in engineering service agreement in effect to proceed. So, we
State law.
can't proceed without you.
Or an engineer.
Or an engineer,
Yes.
okay.
Can I back up a little bit, just because I'm new to this and I just want to have a better understanding?
Oh, you bet.
Absolutely.
Just, you're not acting as a general contractor though?
No.
Okay, thank you. I was just trying to make sure we're clear. So you're not in charge, it's still up to us to choose the bid, to choose the contractor that's going to do the actual,
Not choose. Choose the wrong word.
okay,
Except,
accept award.
Yes. There you go.
Okay.
If it has to go out for advertisement, and I'm not completely convinced it does, but let's pretend it does. You advertise it, 3 contractors come in, put their bid in. You almost have to select the low bidder.
So in a sense, then, as far as the project as a whole, the city is acting as the general contractor in this case. We are awarding the parts and pieces that get the job done.
You're not even really doing that. You're awarding the contract, so you're almost a contract administrator, for the lack of a better term. because you don't award it piecemeal, you award it to a general contractor, the general has subcontractors underneath them,
Okay,
and it's his job to manage them, it's not yours.
okay.
We basically facilitate an authority for them to go forward.
Okay.
Yes,
So who in our little world, because the railroad scares the crap out of me, just because it's been a block in the past.
Yep.
So who's ramrodding those connections, getting the, okay,
that's us.
okay.
It's difficult at best.
Which is why I'm asking the questions. I wanna ask them now instead of wondering why I didn't ask them later,
No,
so.
BNSF is challenging.
Okay. We have such a small window of time to get this.
I know,
done,
oh, believe me,
so-
I know. Because we need to be under construction probably October 1st. Because it's probably a 2 to 3 week construction project, and I certainly want to have it done before before it really starts freezing.
Do you recall the delay we had with Adam Street?
With the railroad?
Yeah,
Yes,
that was what, 3 months, a month?
3 months.
3 months, yeah.
Having spoke with Katie Robles, she's aware that we have some powers through the Emergency Powers Act. And they're also aware of the time crunch that we have with an above-ground water line, so they're cognizant of some of this.
Yes, I will take every 0.5% advantage I can get.
Mark Renfro reached out to me this afternoon. He and I are having a meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I don't know if anybody else will be part of that or not.
Is that the
Janice-
one that we were talking about this morning?
Yes, Janice, I spoke to her this evening and she's gonna be traveling tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
I certainly want to be on it because I want to find out if we have to go out to advertisement, if that's a hard and fast rule. Because if we don't, that saves us 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
There's nothing really in this construction though that would be, if it did get delayed, we could do this through the freezing weather, God forbid, we get there.
We're going to
It's not
have
like-
to.
It's not like Adam Street, we have to wait for the asphalt to cure.
No, we're going to have to.
yeah,
We don't have a choice.
I make a motion to accept this and for council to grant the mayor authority to sign off and proceed.
Second, you got it?
I got it.
Okay, it's all yours.
been moved by David and seconded by Joe that we accept this agreement. Any further discussion?
I have two things for Steve. So, one, Steve, so this is 90 grand for this is what we've got budgeted, right?
Well, the total grant's $750,000, Stephen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I know that we have yet to put out the accepted bids for the actual drilling and all that kind of stuff. But if you were to be generous on all the things that you think need to happen, how far into the 750 grant are we? Are we like pushing the line? Do we've got a lot of wiggle room? I'm curious, like, and I know there's probably a lot of potential for unexpected things about finding boulders or rocks in the subgrade or, a whole bunch of things, right? But in a decent, reasonable case scenario, how much money is $750,000 for all this?
With little to no information, I wrote the grant for that part of it. Janice asked me to put together the dollars. I put quite a bit of inflation in there, so I think we're fat on the 750. I'm hoping we end up there. So if you're asking me today, I think we're going to be okay.
Okay. And then the second thing is, one of my primary concerns in all of this is, it's my understanding that Intermountain is prepared to come through at some point and put a separate hole under the tracks that they're willing to let us use for the potential of looping the system down the road. I am concerned with making sure that we use this money exclusively for putting in just the water line under there, and if Intermountain comes along and is willing to drill us another hole that we can jump on later to improve the water system by looping it, even more, then that would be, I think, the best case scenario out of this, that a year from now we have 2 lines under the tracks and we didn't pay hardly anything for either one of them, because the one that we're going to do ourselves is covered by the $750, and the other one, Intermountain, said, sure, we'll drill you an extra large hole and you can stuff another water pipe in it. So I guess my question, and it's not so much a question, I guess, but a statement to say that I want to be clear to all involved that unless someone explains to me why we can't do this anymore, I don't want to see the Intermountain stuff with the broadband line and the fiber conflated with this effort if it doesn't have to be, because it seems like there's a whole separate pot of money for them to do that separately, and I don't think we need to be generous to Microsoft and the state fund and all that. If they want to drill another hole, let them drill another hole.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay.
Because ultimately, it's my understanding that this line that crosses underneath the railroad track is the only crossing underneath the railroad track. That's what I've heard. Is that correct?
At this point.
To the best of our knowledge.
Yeah. Okay. At the very least, you're going to want 2 crossings underneath that railroad track for this exact reason. That if something goes wrong, you can shut one leg off and you still have water coming through. You want redundancy. So yes, $750,000 in grant form from the state, I don't want to give back.
Cool.
Because it needs
All
to
right.
be done anyway, whether it's here or with IGG or IIG.
Yep. Okay, I'm good. Thank you, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And also, thank you for, I appreciated how quickly you hopped on starting to put together that proposal and not even requiring any initial funds for that and everything. Your availability and your willingness to help, I think, was specifically notable, and I appreciated that very much in the midst of that emergency. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Happy to do it. It was a challenging couple days.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
Did you have something else?
I did, but I'll ask offline.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion? No? It's been moved and seconded that we accept this agreement. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same? Motion carries 5-0.
I don't know if you guys know this, and I was going to save this till the end. And I don't know if Janice told you. First of all, she did a miracle. She really did. There were 3 emergency grants being considered that day. City of College Place for $1 million. They got it, but in a loan form. So they have to pay it back. City of Palouse was asking for roughly $200,000 for a water system fix. That came to them in a loan, not a grant. For some unknown reason, Harrington got $750,000 free from the state of Washington. Thanks to Janice.
We're grateful
Yes.
A miracle.
to anybody who had a hand in it.
Perfect.
Well, Steve, that was the best I could do to get you out of here early.
It's okay. It's a complicated situation. Very complicated.
I guess I'll be in touch with you in the morning probably.
Sounds good. I'm gonna take my toys and go home now.
Okay?
Thanks for
You
coming.
better take a cookie for the road there.
Oh, Lord, no.
Yeah, you earned a cookie, at least.
Does it look like I'm skipping my cookie, Jerry?
Winter's coming.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Steve.
Next thing on our agenda is the nuisance ordinance. David and I, our David right here next to me and I spent about an hour talking to our lawyer the other day. And Jerry and I have spent a little more time this week. There's 3 things that he was asked to work on. The nuisance ordinance and look into how we go about recouping some of our late and overdue bills for our water, sewer, and garbage. We have approximately $31,000 out right now with people in the town that have not paid their water, sewer, garbage bills for many different reasons. So the first one I asked him to attack was the nuisance order, which he did, and we have all of those. Has everybody had a chance to go through those?
Yes.
David, as the spearhead for this whole project, is there anything you would like to say or bring up about this as it went along? I know you've spent a lot of time with David Bingaman on that.
Well, the only thing I'd like to address is the whole purpose. I like what he did, I agree with it, I think we should adopt this, have it in place. But my question is, the enforcement, issues we have with it, and I invited Mr. Chief Mankey from Reardon down here tonight, who has generously offered his time to explain some of the process, how we would go about that, and what's all involved going forward at this point.
Would you like to turn the floor over to?
Yes, if you want, and, Mr. Mankey could, explain that to us a little bit.
I appreciate the invite down. I'm passionate about code enforcement. A little bit of my background: when I was hired by the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office by Sheriff John Coley, for the first 5 years I was the resident deputy for the town of Davenport, and that was one of my main focuses, was ordinance enforcement there. And I'd also like to commend you gentlemen. I've been going to city council meetings for 17 years, from Sprague to Wilbur to Davenport to Reardon to Creston, and you guys are doing a good job. You really are. So kudos to you guys. You're faced with some big issues, and from what I'm seeing tonight, you guys are really doing a good job on taking them on and handling them. With that being said, yes, you can have ordinances with teeth, and you can have the ability to write citations and have folks pay fines. And if they don't pay fines, then you can put liens on the properties, or they can go to collections. I've done research with the district court in Lincoln County, and we have confirmed that if you do appoint a code enforcement officer, which every municipality in the state of Washington has the ability to do by RCW, they will have the ability to write citations for code violations. There are certain steps you guys are going to have to do, and I can take up 10 minutes of your time right now, or an hour of your time right now. I prefer not to take an hour of your time up, but I'm willing to come back and sit down with council members and a appointed code enforcement officer and do a workshop, and the mayor, and do a workshop and show you exactly how to do it. I will say this though, do not reinvent the wheel. There are ordinances out there already that are outstanding, that have been tried and true, that we're utilizing right now in Lincoln County and several towns that were not invented by those towns. I think the first ordinance that I dealt with in the town of Davenport in 2006 was actually stolen from Hermiston, Oregon, or another town down in Oregon, because I remember seeing the original copies, and then they just changed the heading and put town of Davenport nuisance ordinance on it and took off from that. And then over the years they tweaked it to make it more suitable for their municipality. And then when we came into the digital age, they had it codified and put into a digital format, so the folks within the town of Davenport could look it up online on the city website and read and research, things that they wanted to do. generic ticket book that I've given you is acceptable for code violations in Lincoln County District Court. They are not suitable for writing RCW violations or WAC violations, just code enforcement. You can use that generic ticket book still to this day. There's no need, I was looking over the document that David Bingham's supplied you. That's a little extreme, and we don't use anything that in depth that in Reardon. It's not necessary. Our letter that we send to violators is pretty cut and dry. It's per the mayor of Reardon. I have been tasked to investigate ordinance violations, and your property is found to be in violation for either this, that, or a multiple violations, which I have brought examples here tonight, but I'm not gonna, we would get into the hour if I showed you everything. There's one property that I wrote 5 $205 citations. They paid, the property violator paid 2 of them, and the other 3 went to collections. And that was over a span of 5 weeks, and our ordinance said I could have wrote them 1 a day for $205. So I chose to just do 1 a week until they were in compliance. There, in my opinion, there's 3 different types of ordinances. There's the ordinance that is an automatic ticket that your ordinance enforcement officer could write right away without having to send a letter of notification or a request for abatement within 18-day and a process that you would have to go through. And that is ordinance like nuisance barking dog, dog at large, unlicensed dog. Those types of ordinances, you can write the ticket and hand them. And I know when we were in Downport, we had such a problem with dog at large and nuisance barking that we just took a real hard stance on it, and we just wrote the ticket. We didn't give warnings, we didn't care, we just hammered right away, and that cured it for the most part pretty quick when folks got hit in the ticket or in the pocketbook on that kind of stuff. For those types of ordinances, you have first offense, second offense, third offense, fourth offense, all in a 12-month period, and you can start the penalty at $50, $100, $150, $200, whatever you guys decide to do. Those penalty amounts for your ordinance violations, for those lower ordinance violations, you guys need to decide what that is. When that ticket goes to district court, though, if you have in your ordinance a first offense violation for a dog at large is a $100 fine. By the time it's adjudicated through district court, the state gets a piece and the county gets a piece of that, but that's an addition to your $100. So for a $100 fine right now, it's actually a $205 fine by the time the ticket is handed to the violator. So,
Keep
and
that in mind, yeah.
yeah. Now, ordinance violation penalties that are paid, the town gets 100% of what you put your penalty amount at. So if you're say it's a $100 fine for a first offense on one of those lowers, you're getting $100. And then the county is adding on 50 and the state's adding on 55. So it's a $205 ticket, but you guys said it was $100, you're getting $100. If they don't pay it, it goes to collections. Eventually you get your money. Another recourse is to put a lien on the property. And it works really good if the property resident is a renter, and you get to your next level of what I consider level 2 ordinance violations, which would be junk vehicles in the yards, trash, litter, other stuff like that. You would write 2 abatement letters, one to the violator that lives at the residence, and then the other to the actual property owner. And the property owner, it's explained in the letter, and I have templates for you guys also, that if we do schedule workshop, I'll provide all of those examples. The property owner then puts the pressure on the renter also, which makes the abatement process a lot easier. But if the violator is the actual property owner, it could be more difficult. We get some good compliance, other times we don't. We have to hammer them with the fine, and that's a ticket. And you can write them per the ordinance a ticket a day until they abate the nuisance. How that process works is you, per your ordinance, and I haven't read any of yours, but I'm just referring to like Davenport, Wilbur, Reardon. It's typically the same. If I hand a violator a ticket, they have 15 days to fix the issue, get the junk car out of the yard, or pick up all the raw garbage that's out in the front yard. If they choose to, they can request a variance to have junk vehicles in their yard. They have to appear at a city council meeting. They have an opportunity to address the council and the mayor. You guys decide whether or not you're gonna grant them a variance, or you're gonna say, nope, you gotta follow the ordinance. And then they have that amount of time to abate the nuisance. If they don't, your code enforcement officer can write them a citation. And our ordinances are written, and so is Davenport's and Wilbur's. They can write them a citation a day after that time period is expired. If you send in the mail, it has to be certified mail, and they have 18 days per our ordinances. I haven't read yours, so I don't know. So after that time period, if they haven't contacted the council, requested a hearing, and they haven't abated it, then you start writing them tickets. If they don't pay the tickets, they'll either go to collections, or you can go and put a lien on their property. And then you got the level 3 ordinance violations, and I'll just make up an example in my head right now. Say we have the big white elephant rendering plant in the middle of town that's not abiding by state requirements. So the big white rendering plant has to have a fence around it so you can't see them rendering elephants inside there. Okay, so just for an example, that's a little more involved in ordinance enforcement. You're gonna have to lean more on your city attorney and go through the civil court system and have the judge award an order against the white elephant rendering plant facility inside your town to order them to abate the nuisance or to come within compliance of the state requirements. And if they don't, that will give you folks the ability to come in and take care of it yourself by hauling the elephants out of the town or whatever you need to do to fix it. And then you charge the property owner, and if they don't pay for your guys' time and trouble and labor and whatever the cost it was for you to fix it, and then you put a lien on the property. And that's a lot more involved, and that's for your bigger ordinance issues that you would have. But it's all extremely doable. In Reardon, some of my success stories that we've had at the Reardon Police Department as the ordinance enforcement agent for the town of Reardon is, I don't know if you remember the red caboose that was next to the US Bank for years. It's not there anymore. There was a wooden church that was behind Chip Colville's fuel station that looked like it was gonna fall down onto 231 North. That's gone. There was across the street from Colville's, there used to be an old service station there that there was some agreement between the town and the school or something 2 decades ago that they had dug up a bunch of concrete and foundation, and they were doing soil tests, and they found out that, hey, this is not good, and we're not gonna be able to sell this property or develop it because of the soil contamination without a lot of work. But they left a big giant pile of asphalt and foundation. That's gone. We've had 10 illegally parked camp trailers that we've got moved, we had 5 RVs that were occupied, being lived in full-time on people's properties that they've all been ousted out of. That we go on and on, filthy litters, covered yards. I think in 3 years, I've towed 30 cars out of the town of Reardon, probably more than 30. We towed 3 out last week. And so it's extremely doable. You guys can do it, and I can help you get there. If you guys wanna sit down and have a workshop. Your biggest obstacle right now, the first thing you have to do before you can write a ticket is you have to get your ordinances codified and you gotta get them into district court, the ones you wanna enforce and write tickets for. You gotta get those to district court, to Renee Honey. She'll send them off to AOC. They'll be inputted into the state JIS bail schedule, and then they will be automatically codified. So when your code enforcement officer writes the ticket, he will be able to write the proper ordinance code on the citation. So that is something that has to happen as well. The dog stuff is easy, and then you get to the nuisance violations, junk cars, trash in yards, that sort of stuff. That's easy, but then you get the bigger stuff, and those don't actually go into the ticket writing process. I will leave these documents here. In our patrol cars, we all have a system called Sector now that's on our CADs, our computers in our cars, that we write speeding tickets off of, misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor citations for everything from assault for domestic violence to DUI to all that kind of stuff. The only thing we don't write on the Sector system is felony citations. Those get filed with the prosecutor's office. But what I have here is I have all the list of all of the tickets that Odessa, Reardon, Wilbur, Sprague, and Davenport have in the Sector system, and how they're codified and how they would look on a ticket book citation. So I'll leave these here for you guys to look at. There's everything from dog at large to unlicensed dog to dog pooping to nuisance violations, first, second, third, fourth offense. I could keep talking and going on and on and on for the next 20 minutes, but I think you guys kind of got the gist, and I think it'd be more beneficial if you guys set up a workshop and we got to work on getting that stuff inputted in the system, get a nuisance enforcement officer hired or appointed, and we can take off from there.
Okay.
That's almost the hour.
That wasn't an hour.
Seems to me like we need to have a workshop with some pizzas here.
That's really gracious to come down and do that.
Thank you.
We really
Yes,
appreciate
thank you
that.
very much.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I grew up here in Harrington, so it's easy for me to come back here and help you guys out on this stuff.
I would really appreciate it.
I think we've got some work to do still, it sounds like.
Yeah, a little bit. That was the whole process of getting this going. We've had these ordinance similar for a number of years, dating back to in our files that are actually still current, 94, 2008. But just the enforcement part was the big, compliance. And for the most part, a lot of people do comply with everything. And now that there's a way to enforce it, probably get more compliance. Just saying, hopefully. So thanks again.
Yep, no problem.
Sound good?
So do you wanna make a motion to take some sort of action on this?
It's not an action item.
I guess
There's not, I'll be darned.
discuss it in general, so I guess if we have to, we'll set up a time
Okay,
Whomever, or whenever.
I prefer to do it during business hours because I already have 3 to 4 meetings a month at night.
Right. And not weekends, so. You definitely need the mayor.
what's business hours for you?
Well, but I'd like to be done before 5 p.m.
Okay.
7 a.m.
Yeah, 7 a.m. would be great. I could be anywhere by 7.
Mornings, afternoons.
Doesn't matter. Whatever, you guys can get your crew together. I know a lot of people work, and this is voluntary positions.
Right now is a busy time, obviously, in this neck of the woods.
Yep, harvest and all that, so.
You say what are we today, 10th?
Yes, today's the 10th.
We'd be probably pushing it before next meeting, wouldn't we?
I would think that's probably a bigger problem for you than it is for me.
Basically, at our first workshop, we'll just talk about what ordinances we can write tickets for and make sure you guys have those covered. Because you may want to adopt some ordinances and get them published. And then get them to district court so we can get them codified.
I don't know how it is with
Yep.
you, David, but I know the next 2 Thursdays, you're not necessarily in school yet, are you?
Well, if we were to be
So,
in better,
Megan,
we were till 11.
Obviously, you have access, you have Andy's phone number.
Next 2 Thursdays.
Email.
Yeah, email and phone number, it doesn't matter.
Okay,
And again, they'll let me jump away from work if I need to, so.
this is obviously something we wanna get going. We've been banging this around for
So
several years now.
those documents that Mr. Davenport, I handed to Mr. Davenport, those have the penalty amounts on them for the towns have, but those aren't necessarily what the towns have set. If you guys say $100, then it's gonna show 205 on that document is what the actual ticket amount would
With
be.
court, that's what they refer to in the log as court costs. and
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Administrative fees, whatever they wanna call
Lunch
it.
for the sheriff, or?
Yeah. County gets this, the state gets that,
For the judge, I should say.
so
Um,
I will bring our ordinances and we can cross-reference, cause if we say $100, it's gonna look like 205 on that document.
Does the council have any objection of emailing a copy of this to Chief Mankey? This,
To whom?
to look at?
No,
Okay.
I don't have any objection.
That's Andy, Chief Mankey, our ordinance that we're looking at for comparison. To shred it, no, I hope we don't shred it, but suggestions.
And we have all of our nuisance ordinances on digits and we'd be happy to send them to you guys.
Right. Well, appreciate this, cause it's like, we wanna hear it from the horse's mouth, no offense, but, you know, everybody is a lawyer at times and everybody has their ideas and you hear word of mouth, but you really, cutting time, you get down to that, it's all BS, you don't know, it's not true, so that's why I really appreciate you folks, in law enforcement, what really works and what is true and what is false.
It's really easy. I mean, if I get off my butt and I do 2 a week, you know, it's not that difficult. And I like to start out with 10 because I don't want folks saying, well, you're singling me out. I say, no. Me and the mayor drove around town and we found 10 properties that are in violation of this, that, or the other thing. I put the 10 properties up on the whiteboard. I send 10 letters out. They all have 18 days to address the city council or abate the nuisance, and if they don't, they start getting tickets, and it's all spelled out in the letter.
I think that's pretty much what our, I think council has come to the conclusion, is give them a chance, you know, decency. And the past code enforcement officers, one right here, but, the frustration was, is writing tickets and going around it, and they did get some compliance, but the ones that were just didn't care and just took it and filed it, you know, this is what brought that about, or that's the reason why this is coming about.
Well, the real cool thing is you can check on your ticket, served on violator by mail through district court. Your code enforcement officer drops the citation off at the district court and they send it. And if they don't pay it, then they go to collections and it's completely out of your guys' hands.
Yeah.
You don't even have to think about it again. And you can send them one a day.
I think I read RCWs, it does get pretty spendy, some of the,
So these three are from different locations, different towns?
Yeah, ODE's Odessa, REA is Reardon, WIL's Wilbur, SPR is Sprague, and DAV's Davenport. And on the far left column is, you'll see the codification, it'd be DAV and then 10.1 point.
but there is a distinction between a junk vehicle,
No.
how much you
This is-
fine them, and a barking dog or a dog running a large.
Yeah, so
You're not gonna,
in
Where do you see Reardon here?
RCW,
Odessa.
or in the state statute, you cannot write a citation for a junk vehicle in a yard.
You probably don't have too many loose dogs in Reardon, do you?
Actually, you know, we do. And then when I get them and I find the owner, then it comes back as the dog licensed. And in order to get licensed, they have to show proof of, you know, their rabies vaccinations, which typically they don't have. And then I'll give them, you know, a time period. You need to show me a rabies vaccination and a license, or else you're gonna get a citation.
Which is more than getting
Well,
Here's a town.
the dog
which is way more.
vaccinated. The license.
Some of them are
Incentive.
400, 600.
yeah, they don't
Just
screw around.
Copies of these delivered to.
We can. Would you like a copy?
Yeah.
Well, there's, you know, like fourth offense in there is $600 or more.
Well, one of them is first time.
Well, Odessa, I know that this one I looked up, they do have a
Yeah,
cat.
there's one for 1,500 in there, I think, or 1,100 for a first offense.
Yeah, they, you know, so,
So do we wanna schedule a time right now?
I suppose we could, Andy, what's your, you're pretty much open, August,
I'm
September?
I'm open I'm open during the week, during the day, during business hours.
Pending any trial or? anything
Yeah,
like that
I
stuff?
mean, I don't have anything. The only thing I have coming
So
up,
you're going to September now?
my last meeting for August is on the 25th. After the 25th, I don't have anything scheduled.
Of course, you guys know I'm available Thursday mornings, if that works for other people's schedule, if I will accommodate anybody else as needed.
So you guys,
I can make it work, it's important, you know, we've been kicking this can for a long time, and I think we're making some serious traction now, and I don't wanna poo-poo it anymore, you know, it's time to, fish or cut bait.
are we looking at 2 weeks from now, life changes for you guys?
I'm good, anytime,
Okay.
I'm there.
You said it for you gentlemen.
And you're good.
My life pretty well revolves around this room right here.
And it's daylight or excuse me, what-
Pre-5 o'clock.
yeah, so,
You would like to be done by 5.
Yes,
Boy, a noon one would be a great one, huh?
that'd be fine.
okay.
And it's pretty much gotta be a workshop if there's gonna be more than 3 council members. So it's gonna have to be an open public meeting.
Or you just tell us what to stay
Or
away.
or we keep it to 2 and,
I'm not opposed to a public meeting, whether they show up or not, I don't, we work for them, so,
it just has to
They
be
wanna hear us put
advertised as
input,
an
yeah,
open, it's an
yeah.
open public meeting act, so.
but I think the more councilmen, involved with this would behoove us to do that. That way everybody hears it, because, and, any future, well, that's another matter, whomever, whether we go ahead with a resolution, a policy for that code enforcement, or whoever we get to do this, write it out. I don't think Andy wants to drive down here.
No, I'm not gonna be your code enforcement officer. I am a what? I'm herding cats without a cat cane already in Reardon.
I don't see no chipmunks or, any ground squirrels. So it's dogs, cats, noise and all that, you know, so that's covered. And I'll send you what, the attorney has written up, and I would appreciate you to pick it apart or say this is good, this is garbage, whatever your thoughts are.
I read what you handed me, David, already, and that would be a level 3 when you got the white elephant rendering plant issue document. That document, in my opinion, is not necessary for level 1 and level 2.
But the actual ordinance here, we don't have it, the one that's proposed, didn't give that to you tonight, cause I didn't print it out. It's,
This one?
yes.
Okay.
I can give her.
Tomorrow night, we're gonna have a public, discussion with our planning committee to try to prohibit marijuana sales within the city limit of Reardon, so that's gonna be a big deal for us. Tomorrow night, we have that meeting.
A merchant or a store?
Yeah,
sort of.
so we don't have a distributor of marijuana. Like, you know, obviously Davenport has 2 pot shops in town,
They do, don't they?
Mix Auto and the old bowling alley,
Okay.
and we're trying to avoid getting in that situation. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I heard, if you believe some radio, news, the statistics on that, how much, I don't recall what they were now, but infractions involving driving and just incidents, how it increased with all that, so. Which you all knew it was gonna do anyway,
You
so.
know, I got 2 15-year-old girls smoking THC vape pens in the bathroom at school. And with this new State versus Blake, there's no criminal action we can take against them. The school can take punitive action, but that's it. You get a 17-year-old kid with 3 1/4 grams of marijuana in his pocket at school, can't do anything to him.
Would you like to have a hard copy, Andy?
Yes, that'd be fine.
You want me to print this one?
Yeah.
This is the last one that came out.
Is that,
You want me to just make sure?
I think it
that's right?
probably,
There's no date on this.
I actually have a hard copy of our nuisance ordinance here I can leave with you guys.
is it the same one that you sent with us?
Yes, then you already have that.
You have it there?
I did.
Oh,
It's just that shows up there like that, and I think that when that was sent, I think that's probably sent.
Hold on.
This is the Reardon?
Yes.
This is the last one that Terry sent us.
Okay,
okay,
yeah, that's
that's
it.
probably it.
Yes, so far, Joe, thank you.
Maybe
This here's interesting.
I don't have it.
Human noise? Oh boy, we got some of that here, maybe.
So I think, judging by this document and what we have proposed, I don't think we're out of line. I don't know, we'll wait.
We'll copies of this before we go.
So we can hang on to these these are valid?
Yeah, that's a valid ticket book. They're getting expensive and you gotta buy them in bulk, and it would take you guys probably 5 years to write that whole ticket book, cause you're gonna get more compliance once you put a dollar amount on the cost of not abating it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you may get some habitual dog at large or nuisance barking that you'll probably write more tickets and that type of thing than going after the bigger stuff.
I'm hoping to see compliance with just a letter.
Well, you know, and I'll work with your ordinance enforcement officer, but when you first make your first contact, I always say, hey, on your timeline, you know, we notice you have this junk car in your yard and it's a violation of the ordinance. Can you please get rid of it for me? And if, you know, if they're like, well, yeah, ho hum, well, what's reasonable? Can you have it gone in 2 months? You know, it's been here for 5 years. I'll give you another 2 months. But at the end of that 2 month period, cause you said you'd have it gone in 2 months, I'm gonna send you an official letter and that starts the time ticking, and then you only got 18 days. So,
And you mentioned also that you know of a
Thank you.
connection, if people don't have the ability, or for whatever reason, can't move a vehicle or something, you have an outlet.
junk cars are super easy to get rid of for free at no cost to the property owner or the town, cause the tow companies will come get them, cause they get, right now they get $105 per car. So if you get 2 or 3 cars lined up, good guys will come out here and grab them, 1 or 2. They'll even come out for onesies. I've had great luck with good guys since 2006. They've been towing cars for me, and they'll just come get them. And haul them away, no expense to the town or the property owner. And I put that in the letter too. If you are unable, we can remove it for free.
I think we ran into that just a little bit, a few times.
Well, did you guys come up with a date?
We have not yet. I think we need to pick one and just start chewing on it.
It doesn't matter, Monday, any of the 5, right? Let's see.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
the, City Hall closes at noon on Friday for administrative purposes.
It's true.
Sometime afternoon might be a good time because that way we won't have foot traffic in here.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's go this Friday afternoon.
This coming Friday?
So workshop?
Good for you?
So
we don't
today is
have to advertise
Wednesday,
it?
yeah, there's no reason why it couldn't be here Friday.
Pending any, something unforeseen.
So we're talking the 12th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hopefully I remember.
at what time?
High noon, or right after, or like the clerk was saying. You close at high noon? Right,
Yep, you close the door at noon, so we could be open for a meeting at noon.
Could do that.
We could probably scrounge up if the pizza place is open, enough money to get some pizzas in here.
I don't know if Andy likes pizza. Yes, that sounds like it.
Well, it's only 2 days away, we got all kinds of cookies and brownies here, so we'd be well fed.
Yeah.
A little sugar's always good for you, huh? So we're on for 12
Yes.
noon Friday.
Sounds good.
I thank you, sir.
No worries.
Is that, are we gonna announce that as a public?
It'll have to be,
Yeah, for
I think
everybody.
we've gotta have 24 hours on that.
Think so.
And and I don't think we have to put in the paper if we post that on the front door and at the post office.
Chamber website,
Yeah,
Facebook page,
yep.
yep.
Well, the city has a Facebook page.
Yep.
City got law.
Councilman Armand can handle that one.
I will take care of that before I leave tonight.
Okay?
I'm gonna take that ticket book with me and have, district court take a look at it to make sure that what I put in there 3 years ago or whenever I gave it to you is still pertinent information that they would need to have on a citation.
Okay, great.
And I might even have some more of those at the PD, cause we don't use them anymore, we're all electronic, so.
I got a question for you, even Mr. Telford here. Renee Honey, that position, it's not an elected position, how did they get that position?
Hired by the judge.
The judge
Appointed.
does it, okay.
Appointed by the judge.
She's been there a long time, hasn't she?
Mhm.
Thank you. I know that question come up, but I don't know if, in talking, I can't remember who it was, and I go, I don't really know.
Okay, are we finished with that?
I'm good with it. I've been-
Stephen?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. All right. Public comments. Stan?
Yes, I'd like to talk about cemetery trees for a couple of minutes. I've gotten together twice now with 3 gentlemen that live here in the area that are interested in forming a team to work on projects at the cemetery. We're calling ourselves the Cemetery Advisory Team. And we have met twice, once to talk about cemetery trees and once to actually do a walk around at the cemetery and inspect them. And we all agreed that we could probably take care of some of those problems with volunteer effort. In order to do that, we would need some lead time to do some forward planning and to schedule a time when we could do the work and recruit volunteers and have the right equipment in place to do the job when we were ready for it. That lead time would mean that if we have agreed as a team that we won't do anything until council and mayor has authorized us to go ahead with that kind of a volunteer effort. And in order to have the lead time, we would probably need to have an authorization for that by next council or possibly the first council in September in order to get the work done before weather would shut us down and make it actually hazardous to do that kind of work. So if I could just ask that you consider that between now and next council and see if it would be possible to get the authorization for this fall. I'd like to be able to let the rest of the team know whether we should try to schedule something this fall or whether it's gonna have to wait until next year.
Okay,
That's all I got.
all right. I know that Joe at one point talked to, I believe you did, had some people at AWC about volunteers working in the city. And I don't remember all of the information right now. It seems to me that you may have to be hired as a part-time employee to be covered under L&I, and she thought it was very questionable to just have people sign a volunteer form that we were probably going to be liable anyway. So, I don't know that I have the facts on that.
I'm still trying to back it up. That's kind of the gist of it, was that unfortunately, due to the legal environment that we're living in now, that quite honestly, volunteerism is a bit threatened. Just because where you're volunteering has been held to a higher standard, and people get hurt, it's just inevitable, even a twisted ankle, and it just,
I understand that, and I remember the comments that were made the last time we talked about it. And that's why I'm asking if it's gonna be possible to have anything in place for this fall's work, or whether it's something we'll have to wait and work, and try to get the groundwork laid for it.
I did plant the seed for someone to get back to me, and I got a first level response, and their immediate response was, don't do it. So,
Really?
so I kinda said, okay, well, let's just not take a knee-jerk reaction and with risk management, and let's go a little bit deeper into this, so that's what I'm waiting for the phone call on.
I realize that that's been a concern, and that's why I'm posing the question, to make sure it doesn't get lost someplace in a dustpan.
No,
Okay.
it's,
Thank you.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't have a better answer for you at this moment, Stan.
I realize you've been busy.
Hence the big money. That's why you get the big money. Anyone else?
Just, I still have an issue with the audit that was performed and they charged us $18,000.
I have a problem with that too, but I don't usually challenge the auditor much because
Well,
I learned a long time ago
admit
that
it,
knocking
but
your
I
head
am.
on the wall didn't do a lot of good, so.
I hate to admit it, but I am challenging what they have done to the city because they didn't do genuine research, and to me that almost is fraudulent for them to charge for something that they were supposed to have done that they didn't really do. And the big issue, I guess, to me is Bunny Haugen's retirement vacation pay that was denied her by then Mayor Justin Slack. And we had hoped that the audit would look at what the law really said with the handbook that was in use at the time. And there are 3 different places where vacation pay was discussed in the handbook that was used in 2019. And they only quoted the one place which had nothing to do with retirement. And every place where it says about retirement, it says the city will or shall or must. And those are pretty strong words for the city to then have not fulfilled their obligation. But it bothers me that the state audit would do such a poor job of bringing out what the event actually was, what the rules were in place at the time.
So you're referring to the information that was given on the exit interview by the state?
Yes,
Yeah?
I don't know, mine had 20 pages in it, I don't know what yours had.
Oh, I don't think it was all public knowledge or all public, I don't know how many. This could be part of it here,
May I comment?
Sure.
I feel Mrs. Womack raises a very good point. I feel a significant injustice has been committed with regard to our prior city clerk. I've talked to Bunny Haugen, former clerk. I've talked to Marge Womack about it. And I've been involved with this issue from the very beginning. Based on all of that, I would move that the mayor see to it that the vacation pay in question be paid to Mrs. Haugen for up to 100 hours of vacation time. I think that's the issue. So I'm dissembling here. My motion is the mayor be directed to see to it that Mrs. Haugen is reimbursed for approximately 100 hours of vacation time. I'm sorry, I'm a little hoarse tonight.
So there's a motion on the floor, and I won't attempt to repeat it all, but,
I'll second it.
well, it's been moved and seconded that, we we paid Bunny approximately up to 100 hours of vacation. I'm not sure
At the
what,
ambient,
at the rate of,
at the rate of pay.
Jess, I have a note that Janice Sapita at the time was city clerk, and I had made a information request of the city, and she wrote me a little sticky note that said that Bunny was owed 100.5 hours, and Scott was owed 107.75 hours, I think it was. I've got it here somewhere.
so I can't comment on those items, I don't.
Well, I'm saying that the city clerk at the time,
But there's been many, I can tell you, having spoke to the last two mayors and gone through, we have spent and talked to at least 3 lawyers. We haven't, they did. And they got several pages of information from those lawyers to back up their justifications for their actions. So,
I hired an attorney out of Wenatchee,
mhm.
and he said that Bunny has a case against the city if she signs her name on the line, and he was willing to prepare the papers for me to take to work.
I don't,
Never can't, because it's not an action, we can't take action.
Yeah,
Stephen maybe, should the parliamentarian be, clarification on that.
excuse me, that this is discussion in general, that there's no action item on here tonight. We can't take action on this actually, but we can listen to what you have to say, obviously. One thing I can tell you, the mayor cannot hand out money to people unless the city writes a check, so it's not as though even whether I agreed or don't agree with anybody here or not, that I could write a check or sign a check for that. Now, if the council approves a fund and a place to remove that money from our budgeted items, then that would probably happen. But it looks like, and according to our agenda, this is not an action item, so it's not as though we can have a vote on this item tonight. It would have to be put on the agenda for the next meeting and be described as an action item.
I apologize, I failed to,
I
Note
didn't
that.
either, actually, but
and I'll withdraw the motion.
if you look at the agenda you have, there's a D and a G after that item.
Say again?
If you look at the agenda, when you go down here to public comments, there's a D, for that's discussion in general. If
Right.
there's an A, that means it's set up to have an action. So if
Right.
it's not set up on the agenda, you can't take action during that meeting.
So can I add to it?
Parliamentarian.
In June,
Can you can you get on the next meeting as an agenda item?
well, no, I guess what I wanna do is throw out for your discussion tonight, the other 2 items. There were 3 things that you told me in June of 2021, before the election, before you became mayor. And you
Okay.
said there were 3 things you wanted to take care of when you became mayor. The first thing was you wanted the Pledge of Allegiance said at the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted them to open with prayer, and you wanted to see Bunny's vacation pay given back to her because she didn't get it and she deserved it. Those were the
Okay.
3 things that you told me in June of 2021.
And so some of those I might have the ability to do, and some of them are not.
No, I hear you, I'm just
Are
saying.
not the mayor's, the mayor's kinda like Santa Claus, you can promise lots of gifts, but you don't always get to deliver.
Well, sometimes you get
So,
stuck in the
although I
chimney.
said months ago that I did not wanna be a politician, I still do not wanna be a politician.
I know, but you're
wonder-
turning into a fine one after all.
Well, okay, I'll take that as a compliment, but,
And I have one other issue I want your council to be thinking about, so you could put it on the agenda for next time.
Okay,
And that's, Joe Armand was at the last library meeting that I attended in May, on May 12th this year. And you were there.
Yep.
And your wife was there.
Yep.
Stedman and several other people, besides 3 members of the board. The agreement that was reached that day was that when the new books came in, now, that when they turned in the order, they would remove the list, remove from the list the books that you had not approved of.
okay,
Because you, your wife, and myself had all agreed, I think there were probably 5 to 7 books that we did not want brought into the library. About a month or so ago, Stacy Rasmussen sent me the list of the books that she had ordered from Baker and Taylor.
okay,
I've made it about halfway through that list, and there are 3 books that we had rejected that are on that list that we bought and paid for out of city money. And to me, it's a slap in the face for those 3 board members to sit there in that meeting and guarantee us that they're not gonna order those books, and they turn around and order them. And I think that should ban them from being in any position in the library for the next couple of years. You just don't violate your word that way.
okay. Do you know the names of those books?
I have them on my computer, I sent them to your wife.
You sent them?
I sent them on my computer to your wife,
Okay,
because she and I had studied those books before,
yeah.
and I've only made it halfway through the
That's in the
list.
form of an email?
Say what?
That was in the form of an email. Could you forward those to me? To
I
mayor
could.
at
Would you
Harrington
like
dot
me to?
city?
I could, would you like me to?
Yes, please. Then I can ask Stacy about it. That's just part of life. I mean, people don't always do exactly what they say they're gonna do. But
That was
that's
really
not a shooting
blatant, though.
offense in my book at this point in time. It's something I think we could probably talk to them about it. And maybe put those books,
In the back room, which is
High
what
on
they
the
wanted
shelf
to
or
do to
something.
begin with.
yeah.
But it,
But I will look into that. I'll talk to Stacy. None of those people are actually on the board anymore.
that's right, but
I
they,
have 5 resignations one for each of them.
and they've also put their name on the list to be,
No, that's not true.
Grace did,
Grace did. Grace was the only one that was in what we thought was good standings in the,
yeah, she wasn't
In it.
either,
okay?
but
That could be.
she was one of the 3 board members that were here that agreed to not order those books. And they left those books on, and that's like a slap in your face, I would think.
I'll have to check on those books. But if you'll send me the name, or send me the author and the name of the books,
Yes,
I will look into that,
yes.
okay?
Do you want me to keep going on my list, or should I just be quiet now?
No, actually, I didn't start the 3 minutes. I should have asked you to state your name, address, and you had 3 minutes. But as long as you don't have 2 on a list,
No, I think I'm pretty close to being done.
okay?
Mr.
I
Mayor,
wanted to find out from Joe, since he and Stephen were on that committee together, what the purpose of rotating the board members is.
To answer that, it's, the purpose of rotating the library board isn't Harrington, it's actually Washington State. Our resolution passed, resolution present, largely was verbatim from the state law.
Yes, that wasn't my question. My question is, why are they being rotated? What's the purpose in that?
I guess I'm confused at the term rotated.
Well, people come in, one is for 1 year, the next for 2 years, the next for 3 years. and each one at the end can then reapply for 5 years. But then, at the end of 6 years, one of them is gonna be rotated out, and somebody else is gonna have to come in to replace them.
Again,
That's exactly why.
That's why, and that's
That's
the.
why you don't, that
What is
prevents,
exactly why?
it prevents having board members sit on the board for 25 years. What it does is it rotates fresh blood in so that you can get new opinions and new ideas, and that's why they rotate it, just like the council.
That's what I was asking him.
So,
That's
it's,
I
exactly.
wasn't asking you, I was asking Joe, he was there at the meeting and he's been studying this.
so again, it's like I said before, that's, the purpose of it is, well, largely, people who are a lot smarter and a much higher position than I wrote the RCW. I just copied and pasted.
No, I know that.
Portion of it. So if the state says this is the way the library board is gonna be run, it's far for this body to question that. So, that's why.
Okay, thank you. Oh, can I have one more word?
You got the floor, Marge.
Well, I wanted to thank you and the city clerk for seeing to it that I got my extra pay, which I didn't know I was gonna get. But I cashed it today and I thought, this was really nice, I better remember to thank them, and then I almost didn't.
You're more than welcome. That was Jerry who, found out that we were paying you less than the state's minimum wage.
Well, that was nice of him
Even
to
though,
do that
you
for
know,
me.
and we never thought about it, cause it was all done before us, so when he brought that up, you know, and then we went through some education on our part, how far back we needed to go, and that was 3 years. And as you know, I kept you involved with that there. The first year, you were actually above minimum wage.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that was 2019, and 2021 and 22 you were not, so we raised that up. So that was Jerry single-handedly.
Well, thank you to both of you.
Now you're more than welcome. That's as it should be.
Now I'll be quiet.
Your Honor, I think we have a motion on the floor. Do we have to vote on the retraction?
Oh, your withdrawal?
Yes.
Withdrawal.
Oh, sorry, that kinda got away there. I don't know what happened. I think
Does a
if you-
withdrawal require a vote? Does anybody know?
Stephen, does the withdrawal of a motion need a vote?
Nope, we already did it once with the payroll.
That's what I thought, okay.
Satisfied, thank you.
Any further public comments? I think it's time for Mr. Shank.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign?
We all look alike.
Cookie time, gentlemen.
Now they're real comments, right?
Now, yeah, now, well, first of all, let's turn these mics off.